Some news was breaking overnight. Barclays CEO Jes Staley is stepping down. This following an investigation into his relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Jeff Cutmore joins us more with all of it right now. Good morning.
Yeah, this was a real surprise, Andrew. I mean, the share price has us off about 2% at the moment here in London, but we were down over 3% initially after the news broke. So the report by the city regulator and the Bank of England looked into the way Jes Staley had characterized his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein to Barclays when he was a private banker to Epstein in a previous job. The UK lender announcing today that it was made aware of the preliminary results of the probe on Friday evening. Barclays saying the board and Staley agreed on his departure, quote, in view of those conclusions, but adding that Staley intends to contest the findings. Now, the bank says it has named CS Venkatakrishnan, the current head of global markets, as Staley's replacement. He's going to take over as the chief executive immediately today. Now, Staley says his departure is a personal response to the ongoing probe. According to an internal memo that was seen by Reuters, the departing chief adding he didn't want the probe to be a distraction. Meanwhile, in a separate internal memo, the incoming CEO has said he will maintain Staley's strategy, which he called, quote, the right one. That is also according to Reuters, but he did say changes will be made to the corporate and investment bank in coming days. So as we understand this, Andrew, and neither of these watchdogs are actually talking right now. They say this is an open investigation and therefore they cannot comment further. But as we understand it at the moment, no one is saying that Jes Staley did anything wrong with Jeffrey Epstein, but they are saying that the way he may have characterized his relationship to the bank itself may be the issue at fault here. But as I say, we're still asking many questions and trying to find out more detail as to exactly what was in that preliminary report. At this stage, we only know Jes Staley, a banker who was at Barclays since 2015, has gone. Back to you.
Jeff Cutmore, before you go, two things. They in the legal world in the U.S., they call this the crime of upholstery. The cover-up is worse than the crime. So just so and first of all, we should say, we don't know if there was any crimes involved, obviously, but it sounds like this is about misleading the bank or misleading the regulators rather than the actual underlying issue itself.
That's absolutely it. I think you've nailed it here. Details are scarce at this point, but I will tell you this investigation has been running for well over a year, and there's been very little from it to indicate that Jes Staley did anything inappropriate in his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. The underlying issue here seems to be, as you say, that maybe the way he characterized that relationship to the board at Barclays wasn't accurate and clear. But all the way along, Barclays board have said they think he's been transparent and open. He claims he's been transparent and open. And as I say, he is going to contest these findings. That's the message we have from Jes Staley at this point. But we're still a little bit in the dark about exactly what was wrong with the way he characterized his relationship. But clearly, that is the nub of the issue, as you describe it.
Hey, Jeff, I've read reports that suggest that, he had said this was strictly a relationship that was a purely professional relationship, and maybe that's where the questions come in. Maybe there was more than just a professional relationship, or at least emails that have led them to question that.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a possibility of that because I think in terms of what we do know, we know that he had visited Jeffrey Epstein's boat. Does that mean it was just a purely professional relationship, or did it extend somewhat beyond that? We know that an exchange of emails was passed on to the UK regulators from the United States. So there is plenty of information for the regulators to work through here. And as they looked at the exchanges between the two men, clearly they may have decided that there was something more to that relationship than just a pure business relationship between a wealthy individual and his private banker.
Jeff, before you, well, two things. One, fascinating that the board itself, it doesn't appear necessarily thinks that they were misled, but the regulators think that the board was misled. And then the secondary issue I was just going to ask you about is this new CEO. Is this an interim temporary situation, or are you anticipating this is now the CEO of the company going forward?
I think you're absolutely right on the first point. At this stage, the board isn't saying they felt that they were misled, but this is down to apparently the interim findings that the regulators have passed to the board, and thus this decision was taken for Jes Staley to leave. In terms of the status of the new CEO, as we understand it at the moment, there was no interim or temporary attached to the announcement. Effectively, he is the new CEO as of today.